I'm just your time.
Well, to whom?
Kathy?
To the government? Oh, I put a lot of hours in.
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. Just don't, Russ.
The day is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. The time is 2 p.m. and I'm going to call this council work session to order. We're going to start off with visitor comments. Now is the time for visitor comments. The visitor comment period is an essential part of local government meetings. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. The city council will take all input into consideration. However, in observance of Oregon open meeting laws, this isn't the time for dialogue, but rather a time for us to listen to you. Our city administrator and city recorder are taking notes of action if needed. Thank you for participating in visitor comments. Who would like to speak?
Actually, you're happy to speak.
Can you please state your name for the record?
My name is Ron Tromlitz. Sharon says the reservoir is her favorite topic. For me, it's the only topic. The city has spent years resolving their 2 million gallon reservoir excessive water loss. I can tell you the reservoir wasn't a priority much of the time. The city of St. Helens received an empty and damaged reservoir courtesy of the city's actions. Their participation was a misdiagnosis of the reservoir's condition. 2016, the city had no prior investigation for the source of the water loss. The reservoir had a drain line leakage that exceeded the reported 16,000 gallons per day loss. If this repair had been done, the numbers would have revealed the reservoir didn't require rehabilitation at this time. The information was validated by Bear Investigation with their assessment in December of 2017. I collected the city's records, then choosing to speak the truth, disclose these issues. I reveal how the city's participation has caused the death of the reservoir. My involvement in produced Mohammed Sailor's message. I should cease probing the $2 million gallon reservoir. It was irritating people with deep pockets who were considering suing me, and I could lose my house and everything I own. The truth was irritating some. I know no one has ever sued me, but I did disclose who that party would be. When I was a supervisor, I was told I was responsible for all incidents and happenings by people who I supervised. I wonder if this might apply to John Walsh, who would have the same responsibility. I may not have achieved my goal, and I didn't consider myself a failure. I believe I stood for the truth, and if not, I would have been a failure. I believe newspapers not investigating the city's involvement was the failure. The need for asking questions and explanations of the 2 million gallon reservoir rehabilitation failure. The newspapers have the ability to provide transparency. The city's client privilege response was without Walker Consultants' disclosure of the 2 million gallon rehabilitation failure. I categorize answers for questions directed to the city. Yes would be revealing, no would create doubt, and no comment would be the expected answer. In September 2023, Western States drilled 3 test holes hitting water at 25 feet on B3. November 14th and 15th, drilled B4 and B5. At B5, the geologist told me they struck chlorine at 7 feet. December 27th, 2023, I filed right for information for the drill report, which showed residual chlorine at B2 on October 30th, 2023. When I filed for that report, I wrote asking if the city suspected the 2.5 million gallon reservoir was leaking after chlorine was reported. The answer was no answer. Thank you.
Other visitor comments?
Steve Topaz. I'm gonna recap some of the reservoir details. Ron has been very good at the technical details, the written details, the reports, and the misguided things. I started on the council in 2019. In the first month, I asked, well, how much money we had involved in the repair of the reservoir. I asked John Walsh's associate, Matt Brown, and he didn't know. He passed the ball on to Susan Nelson, and she didn't know. The important part of that is next council meeting, there was a 6-page note by Matt Brown, which he got up and described the problems with Mr. Topaz, Councilor Topaz, asking him for how much money was spent. He indicated that if I had gone to him in person, talked to him on the telephone, emailed him or sent him a letter, he would have answered. What they did not say is he, again, obviously with the lawyers and John Walsh is okay, took this letter of his, this 6-page letter, to the ethics board and said, Councilor Topaz is asking bad questions because it made me and my family upset and all. The ethics board did not even answer. They pointed out that councilors are supposed to ask financial questions having to do with the public in a public place. Well, that was, which we found out at that point, there was $200,000 in repairs and so on, enough for a number of policemen. We found out from Mohammed at last meeting, the $2 million repair is estimated last year is now up to $4 million. And there's a number of things which Ron has pointed out with cores, but the particular reservoir we're worried about is undermined and can't be repaired. In fact, if they try to repair it, the number 2 reservoir, the bigger one uphill, could cave in. Okay, so we've gone from not telling us about 200,000 to having a $4 million repair. We also found out that one of the problems of the membrane was they needed to staple it back to the concrete, which said water is infiltrating into our reservoir. So we have contaminated water getting into our reservoir. That wasn't a big point, but it was a point in the details. We also had the problem that, and I asked this as a counselor, do we have reserve for fire? And went to no problem. We've just found out in the last reports that we're 1 million gallons behind where we should be in case of fire. If you're a company wanting to move into St. Helens and you find out there's not enough reserve in your water supply for fire protection, you probably won't get here. These are some of the other factors that are coming up with not taking care of the reservoir. Not doing a good job has destroyed the underpinnings of our both reservoirs. Those are technical ones. You go up there and look at them underground, you'll see, not an opinion. The reference that we're getting as far as knowing what we're doing, St. Helens is getting the 8 ball. We're not doing very well. Thank you.
Steve, any other visitor comments?
Brady Preheim. So first, quickly, did say no under garbage. I'm mad at them. They stole my garbage can and downgraded it after told me they wouldn't, and they did it anyhow, so I'm kicked off at them, so just say no. The other thing is the police station. You need to start at ground zero. I'm glad that you've chosen not to appeal a little bit decision. But I also think that we need to reconsider whether we need a police station, where it can be remodeled, and also re-investigate the offer from the sheriff to locate the police station at the jail and add on, where there's already a lot of infrastructure, so that we need to start over. It was a bad project from the beginning. They need something, whether or not they need a $30 million new police station is a different story. And I think that we just need to start over and have some town halls and some information and look at other options than building a new station. The other thing is, the big one is the events regarding downtown. Halloween Town is the lifeblood of this community. 9 years ago, I remember, before Tina came, our downtown was empty. Klondike was closed. Plymouth Pub was closed. The Masonic Building was empty. 2Cs was empty. Most of the retail stores down here were empty. They are all here now and are viable businesses because of Halloween Town. And we need to continue that. And this delaying and kicking the can down the road for weeks and weeks and weeks is just ridiculous. You need to make a decision. Planning has been going on for a year. Planning for the following Halloween Town starts in September of this year for next year. So you cannot now, in the end of May, middle of May, be not knowing whether we're gonna have events here. You need to make that decision. And if you're gonna cancel, at least let people know. I think it's a bad idea. I think that you should trust our talented coordinator who knows what she's doing. She was the only event that managed to have an event during the middle of COVID, did it safely, and told you she could do it safely. It was one of the few things that actually happened. You trusted her, she did her job, let her do her job. If she tells you she can have it here, then she can have it here. If she didn't, she would tell you. So you need to make certain that she can do her job and say that you're gonna have those events and let her do what she needs to do to mitigate that. And the contract needs to be extended towards the end of the year. The RFP process should be separate from the existing contract. Your own city recorder has told you that you're not likely to be able to do the RFP and do a new contract by the time this contract ends. And having a contract in the middle of this year is just not smart. So extend our contract to the end of the year, do the RFP starting January of 2025.
Any other visitor comments in the room? Any online?
Yes, St. Peter.
All right, we'll jump to Adam. Oh, Jim, did you want to do a visitor comment?
Now or later?
No.
Just go ahead real quick and then we'll go to Adam. Sorry, Adam, hold on just a second.
Sorry, Adam. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Jim Coleman, resident of St. Helens. And I just came down to listen today, but I thought I'd put my 2 cents worth in on, I wrote an email to each and every one of you folks 3 weeks ago. And I didn't receive one reply. And there was questions, yes or no, or simple. So I just thought I'd bring that up. If I didn't get them, I'll resend them, but, and I put my phone number down there too, so you could call me. I want to answer, I want to reply. Thank you. You resend it, Jim? I will, yeah, thank you. Did anybody else, everybody get it?
About the vote,
Yep. No, about the houseboat.
about the house vote. I think I remember seeing it, but I have so many emails, it's really hard to weed through them. But you know my phone number, Jim, we've talked many times. You can always call me too, so.
Well, okay.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, we're gonna jump to Adam.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Adam.
I understand that sometimes things are said that, maybe aren't what was intended. We had an episode during the budget committee meeting where ownership of the Wana Trust account was questioned. The day before at the council meeting, we got 2 different answers, one from the mayor, one from John Walsh on the ownership of the fund. Neither of those answers actually matched what was in writing in an email to our organization from John Walsh. Ironically enough, a different answer was given during the budget committee meeting. Jenny Gilbert questioned the variation of the answers during the budget meeting and was told that the current answer was that of the attorney. Because there was different answers, she asked for some clarification if that answer came the previous day since the previous council session. And there's an awkward silence in the room, almost like somebody got caught not being completely honest. There's an issue with that. I do think there may be a problem with communicating the proper information, especially when it comes to John Walsh and tourism. There seems to be a continued theme when it comes to tourism, procedures not being followed, contracts not being overseen by qualified legal counsel, legally required FRPs not going out, etc. Back to the communication of information. Last council meeting, Council President Chilton asked if there had been any interest, and John Walsh replied back with no, none at all. The look of surprise could be seen on many faces, especially from Council President Chilton, when she questioned the answer further. Prior to the council meeting, our organization had information from multiple people that there had been a request for in-depth information about the RFP process, and that required more than single word answers and clarification. There was an email response, something along the line of, I don't have time for this, I'm busy with the budget committee. This isn't good for a single point of contact person. That would be John Walsh. The mayor's made the statement on multiple occasions that John Walsh was already in charge of tourism when he got into his position. He relies on John for his information. I think at this point, Ray Charles could see that there's been a very long history of problems with tourism. I personally have only been looking into tourism for about a year and a half, and I've reviewed multiple years of council meetings, and it seems that previous council sessions and council groups have had a problem with tourism also. Right now, we currently have a great opportunity to make a change here. There's currently an open RFP. We may or may not get a new contractor, but in an effort to eliminate a lot of the apparent problems that have been substantiated with multiple terms of various councils and accusations of unethical relationships between John Walsh and the current contractor, I would like to suggest it may be time to assign tourism to somebody else. Unfortunately, tourism has become a very political because of the lack of transparency and inability of John to answer questions directly and communicate clearly when it comes to tourism. The time is now. Since tourism is so political, I think we should assign it to one of the councilors not up for election this cycle. That would leave Councillor Sundin and Councillor Gunderson. I'm confident either one would be great at the job, but I do think it would more make logical sense to have Councillor Sundin be in charge, since he's been directly involved in the involvement with putting together the new RFP and the new contract, and is already familiar with the current process. Thank you guys very much for listening to what I had to say.
Thank you, Adam. Is there anyone else online?
No.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and jump to our agenda today, and number one, we have review request from Hudson Garbage to increase garbage recycling rates. Hudson Garbage District Manager Josh Brown is here, along with K. I know your name starts with a K.
Causeway.
Yeah, there you go. Come on up.
Thank you, Council President. Good to see you all again, members of the council. As you said, my name is Josh Brown, District Manager for Hudson Garbage. I oversee a few of our locations throughout the area, as well as in the metro region, Portland metro region. So Conley is our local site manager here that runs the Hudson Garbage operation. So try not to take up too much of your time. We're here again this time of year, which is pretty standard for us to ask for your support of an adjustment of our rates. This time of year, Columbia County adjusts the disposal rates at the transfer station where we dump our solid waste and recycling. So kind of in conjunction with that, a lot of our rate is made up of the weight that we dump at the transfer station. So timing wise, that's been pretty standard for many years here. You know, I noted a couple of things in my letter. I won't repeat all of that. I'm sure you had the opportunity to read that. A couple headwinds that we have had, and a big one is truck deliveries. We're really struggling to get new trucks delivered on time. I'm hopeful that will improve, but just kind of depending on the economy, but that's been a real challenge for us. But one of the bigger ones is just skilled labor, more so around mechanics and drivers, especially mechanics coming into our industry has been really challenging. Which has driven the labor market up quite a bit. So continue to see some headwinds there. But forward looking, a little more positive than the last couple of years we've been in here, where inflation was much higher. Costs were a lot higher than in 2023, which is a good thing. It's hopefully stabilizing a little bit. So I'm kind of optimistic on that. I think, you know, CPI last year is much lower than what we've seen previous years, and some of the headwinds that us and the city and everybody's faced. So again, just kind of asking for support. This year, the inflation rate, which when I say this year, looking back 2023, was 4.3%, which is exactly what we are coming in with. We don't feel that asking anything over the inflation rate this year is anything we need to do to support our business going forward. Think I'll kind of just wrap with that. You know, I want to thank the council as well as city staff. It's always a strong, solid relationship, has been for a long time, and we want to continue to be community partners and support the city in any way we can. And Brady, we will certainly look into your concern and come up with a solution for that. So I think that's enough of time I'll take of you, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
How long is your franchise?
They're a 10-year franchise, so we've got I want to say, and I just forgot to look at that right before I left, but they're a 10-year franchise typically, and I want to say we have a few years left on it. A few years in. Renewed it about 3 years ago, something like that, so.
Well, I just want to say as a final comment that we understand that the cost of things have been going up everywhere. And the quality of service that you guys provide, I hope you are able to maintain that level with these costs. So we wouldn't want to see that level of performance that you guys provide right now to the city of St. Helens decrease. So I personally am in support of what you guys need to maintain your good quality service. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and that's a big part of these increases is to continue that investment in new equipment, new containers, employee wages, local purchases, all the things we do, so. Thank you.
Let's see you in the evening agenda tonight, and there's an opportunity for the public to comment on those rates that in.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna have Shauna Duggan come up next, our recreation manager, to give our recreation program semi-annual report.
Hello, thank you for having me. Happy Wednesday. So I am just going to go over briefly about what we're doing in the recreation program, and then I'll have some time at the end if you guys have questions for me. Does that sound okay? Awesome. So these are our numbers for 2024. So currently we have 87 registered programs. And what that means is it requires you to go online and register and say you're attending that program. We have 50 drop-in free programs. We have over 4,800 profiles in our Rec Desk database, which is pretty significant for only having that program for about 3 years now. We have increased our Facebook followers up to 3,100. This year so far, we've provided 779 after school hours for the 2023-2024 school year. And this summer we'll have 14 summer camps. So this was our list that we've been working on for our projects and goals for 23-24. The ones that are highlighted are all things that we've accomplished and things that we have to maintain, because you know with partnerships, we do have to maintain those partnerships. We don't just get that partnership and then it's always there. We have to go to meetings. We have to look at how we can help our stakeholders, be good partners to them back, building programs and partnerships with what resources they have as well. So you guys can all look through the list and see what that all looks like. The two things that we still are looking at that we haven't got a good grasp on yet is looking at the possibility of a before school care program, because there has been some interest in the community for that. I don't know if you're all aware, but St. Helens, well, Columbia County, actually United States as a whole is a child care desert. And we have some situations in the community where different child cares have shut down or they went a little bit of a different direction. One of our biggest child care centers out here doesn't do after school programming anymore. And so we have absorbed those kiddos into our program. So they cut about 90 spots at their program that we were able to absorb a lot of those kids. And then facility rentals for the recreation center and the community center are still high on our list getting going. But with rentals comes a whole nother set of challenges with having, if we want to have staff present, garbage services, cleaning services, and all of those things. So those are two things that we're still working on, but everything else we have a pretty good handle on. I think the biggest thing on there is continuing offering the services at our staff capacity. I know there's a lot of ideas that folks in the community have for what they want to see for recreation, but we also have to look at what we're able to do. This year, we will not be doing the adult softball league, which is not a bad thing. They were able to form their board again and be able to take it on, which is great, because what we've done with a few programs, the soccer program and the adult softball program, is we were able to take that on when everything kind of fell apart for them and they didn't have anybody else. And then we were able to get it going, and then they were able to reform something to take those pieces back, because some of those things are better for volunteers to operate in adult softball, and I think is a good one for them to have their own board, and we still support the way that we can. So this shows how recreation is funded. I know we've just went through a bunch of budget meetings. There was a lot of questions about how recreation is funded. Back in 2018, I started this. I was still working in the water department, a little bit in court, and then had the recreation. I had a movie screen in the Columbia View Park, and that was it. And it's really grown since then. One of the biggest asks from me is to make our program as self-sustainable as possible. And we've really worked to do that. We're impacting the general fund very little this year. And so we're really proud that we've been able to get those programs and support through grants and stakeholders. So if you look at the funding streams, grants and stakeholders are our main funder that we have. Then we have user fees, and then the city sprinkles in a little bit on top of that to make the program whole. We also have a very big partnership with the St. Helens School District. We have an IGA with them, so we're able to use facilities for free. They also partner with us on some other things like busing and things like that that really impact the community and make it accessible for all the kids to be able to attend the program, because transportation is a huge barrier in the community, especially for our kiddos that live a little bit out of town. And if you'll go to the next slide. So this shows the board and committee work that I'm a part of, and if not monthly, more than monthly, that I sit on these boards. And it's important for me to be able to sit on these boards because these are our stakeholders. And so these are the ones that give us money to put on these programs. A lot of places have the money, they just don't have the staff to do it, whereas we are opposite. We can have the staff and we don't necessarily have the funds for it. So we come together and create a whole program for it. So I'm part of the Columbia County Trauma Informed Network, the Early Learning Steering Committee, Columbia County Health Coalition, Northwest Parenting Hub, which the Northwest Parenting Hub sponsors all of our early learning things that we have. So if you see like the play school that we have a Kaleidoscope Play and Learn. Those are all paid through the Northwest Learning Hub, and they're part of the Northwest ESD as well. Columbia County Child Care Task Force and the Grow Greater St. Helens. And then these are our current programming partnerships. So we have, of course, with the St. Helens School District, OSU Extension Office, the St. Helens Main Street Alliance, Northwest Parenting Hub, the Columbia Art Guild, Mom of Columbia County, CCMH, Griffin's Place, St. Helens Police Department, St. Helens Library, and Columbia County. Griffin's Place and CCMH has really filled in a gap that we had before with the services. And so they're able to sprinkle in their knowledge and their resources to help us provide programs that are inclusive to folks who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's been really great for us because we don't necessarily have to have somebody on our staff that is trained to do those things, though we do try to learn from them. That can be in a very expensive position to fill, and they have those resources. So we're able to provide them with space and some registering type things and be able to provide that whole community support. So our current grants that we have, you've heard a lot probably of the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. That's the one that we have for 5 years. By the time the 5 years done, we'll bring a little over $1 million into the community. What that looks like is every day after school, we have 90 kiddos in our care at all 3 schools. So we're at Lewis and Clark, McBride, and Columbia City. We hire a lot of folks from either the high school or that live in the community. So we're providing jobs there. And we try to source our supplies and stuff locally. And then, of course, if we can't, we have to look elsewhere. But we really try to boost up other organizations too. For instance, Columbia Art Guild is one of our partners that comes in and teaches art classes. And we're able to pay some of their folks that come in and pay like a little stipend to be able to do that. And so it's been really awesome for us because they just are a contract employee and they're able to do those things. And then the high school students, a lot of them, it's their first job. So if I ever look like I'm stressed out, I have 90 kids, and then I have about, 5 high school kids that were learning through life skills of having first jobs for things. So if anybody ever wants to come and dabble into that, I know Brandon came around to our programs one day and got to see the kids, and it's just a good place to be and see why we do what we do. So this grant is a partnership with the St. Helens School District. One of the biggest things with it is there is busing home. So I hear from a lot of kids that have never been able to participate in anything after school because of transportation, parents working, just all these different barriers are now able to do that because we're able to get them home afterwards. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next one. So this one shows a little bit, this is from 2/29, 2024 to 4/29. So we've had over 424 program registrations. So that's pretty big. That's just a 60-day snapshot, right? 345 have been residents, 79 are non-residents. So we do have a lot of folks that come from Scappoose, Rainier, Longview. In the summer, we have a lot of folks that come from Beaverton, Hillsborough, and other places, like if they're visiting grandparents and they want to send into a camp and things like that. You can see our biggest demographic is our under 18s. Though we do try to provide programming for everyone, we also recognize that that is a need out here. That is a big need for under 18. And we do have other partners that are providing things for other people. We have a really great senior center that's doing those things. We have, and I really try not to duplicate services as much as possible. So if I know someone's already doing something really well, I ask if we can support them in any way and see how that's going before we just try to stand up a whole nother program, because I don't feel like that's a good use of resources, especially in a small community. And then up next, so our goal is to keep strengthening partnerships to help provide a safe and inclusive environment for all ages, working with some new partners and businesses on programming, focusing on what we can do, continue to explore grants, sponsorships, and other funding opportunities. I have a few applications out pending for grants right now too that hopefully we'll get. Expand our teaching and contract services and find the gaps in the community and see how we can help close those gaps. And then I am gonna open this up for questions, and at the very end will the video work? I have a video that's gonna show you. We did do a spring break camp that we had over 50 kids attend, and that was our biggest group of kids that we've had all together since COVID. So that was nice to kind of rip that Band-Aid off, and it was really fun. The kids had a good time, and that also had food services and busing services. So it really filled a really good gap for them. So I have to say, if you're ever having trouble with teamwork and stuff, just bring a parachute out. That usually solves everything.
Does anyone have any questions for Shauna?
How many kids are you guys serving after school then?
So we have 90 kids right now.
90?
Yeah.
At 3 different schools.
3 different schools. So we have about 30 average at each school. We hope to expand that, but with that, we have to have capacity and space.
How late does it run?
I'm sorry.
How late does it run?
Till 5.
Okay.
Yes, so we're there. Every day except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays we're there from 12:45 to 5. Yeah, that's almost a whole day. Yeah. Yeah, but we went from having 30 at the end of December to 90 now, so it's been fun.
I don't have any questions, but just thank you for all that you do. I had a few minutes to spend with Shauna about 3 weeks ago maybe, and checked out McBride and Lewis and Clark. Just fun to see the kids busy and engaged, and it fills a big need in the community. And my kids have gone to some of the free and the paid camps and really enjoyed it. So just glad that we have the program.
Yeah.
I think you've built a great ground. Just by the people coming, the students and everything, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just jump on that and just say I'm extremely impressed with the recreation program and how much work you put into the grant process, and the feedback that I hear from my neighbors whose kids go to the program is just fantastic. Like, they just love the relationships that you've built with everybody in the community. So I really am grateful for that. But on the city council side of things, I'm grateful for the fact that we asked you, we need this program to be self-sustainable, at least mostly. And you really fit that bill. So thank you so much for all your hard work, and kudos to you, and I hope you can grow it bigger. So
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you guys have put into helping us, stand this up. And with the 2 years of COVID, not sure how you do recreation when you're not supposed to recreate with each other, but we did it and came out on the other side. And hopefully, one day I'll see my students up here in the city council or working for you, and you can say, yeah, Shauna wouldn't like you doing that, so don't do that.
don't do it.
Right? Yeah.
Prior to the city getting involved in recreation, it was, what did happen was really decentralized and just all over, a lot of overlaps, and council support decided to get into that business, and it's just grown and grown and grown really well, and it's brings people together, it creates community. There's not just all kinds of good reasons that this is a successful program. So thank you.
For your work.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, next item, review proposed engineering fees, engineering manager Sharon.
I think you.
Oh, I'm sorry, communications. Crystal's like, come on, Jessica, I've been sitting out here. No, come on, Crystal. Communications semi-annual report, communications officer Crystal King, and Cameron. Sorry, Sharon, like, okay, I'll go.
I'm Crystal, and this is Cameron, our communications assistant, which I so appreciate their time that they get to allot to communications. Frees me up for a lot of the big projects we have going on right now. So as you can see by the numbers, we're putting out at this point probably about one newsletter a week between the waterfront newsletter that we have and the regular city newsletter that we've kept going. And we're fulfilling about a media request every 2.5 days from media, and that can range from anywhere like a local newspaper to Portland Metro News that reach out to us. We average about 3.5 social media posts a day and a press release every 10 days. And in addition to all of those things, which are like metrics that we can easily measure, we fulfill a lot of other tasks that are needed around the city for a lot of different divisions. That includes anything from producing photography and videography for them to helping plan events like open houses or something like Citizens Day, to editing needs, advertising, graphic design. So let's talk specifically about waterfront over the last 6 months or so. We've done several rounds of in-person business canvassing to the businesses and residents down here. So walked storefront to storefront with information and talked to them face to face. Rachel, when she was here, did some canvassing up in the Nob Hill area to residents when we initially talked about Cowles Street intersection is what's going to be the next big thing that goes under construction. We held a business and resident open house. We did some actual mailer flyers that went out that we produced so that in the range of everybody impacted by the project that would have a detour regularly, we mailed something out in the mail to them so that they received that. We have been working with a Columbia County local videography company that has produced, right now we released 3 business video highlights of businesses down here. Them talking about, they're not only introducing them as a business down here to support, but also talking about what waterfront redevelopment means to them in support of their business in the future. So we'll have 3 more highlights in the queue that we're kind of sitting on, strategically releasing once a month or so. But that's one way that we've been working to kind of partner with businesses down here to support them during the impacts to construction. So then numerous website updates we've needed to make. We have a dedicated project website for each of the various waterfront projects. So as we have detours that go into place where we need to put traffic control plans out or upcoming open houses or things of significance, we go in there and we get that updated for the project team. I attend the regular contractor meetings that we have for streets and utilities, and now we've launched the Riverwalk project. So we have bi-weekly meetings for those that I began attending. We had our first one last week, as well as doing regular site photos and videos to document what's going on throughout the course of the project. We obviously have the dedicated waterfront newsletter that has grown quite significantly. We almost have as many people subscribed to that now as we have for our regular newsletter. So the word is getting out to the people that especially it needs to get out to, which are the affected businesses and residents down here. Jenny and I worked on creating some banners for the upcoming Riverwalk project closure because if anybody hasn't heard yet, Columbia View Park is being fully closed beginning next Monday, May 20th. So when the fencing goes up, we'll have some nice banners for the project that go up where people can go for more info and see what that project is about. And then John, Rachel, and I have been working on a central waterfront video that's in production right now. It's sort of in the final stages of that, so that will hopefully be released probably sometime this year, highlighting what that project scope is about. And then we are working with the same company who's doing the video business highlights for us is doing a drone time lapse is what it will be eventually for the Riverwalk project. So they came out and did their first drone flyover of the Riverwalk project. They'll be out about once a month or as needed to do a flyover of that property so we can get some real-time progression of that project from start to finish. Is there any questions about waterfront communications in particular? Okay. So moving on to everything else, we've had like a myriad of other things that we've worked on over the last 6 months. One of the few things that I want to highlight is the winter weather messaging that we had, significant snow and freezing weather over the winter. And I want to particularly thank Ethan, who worked really closely with me while Public Works was out doing, all that they did over that week of plowing 24/7 and laying down gravel. So thank you to Ethan for sending me all the videos and pictures that he did and coordinating with Dave so that we could get communications regularly out to people and explain a little bit about why our process looks the way it does in Public Works of storm response. And it was pretty well received. It got a lot of engagement online from people. We also have worked on campaigns for National Library Week, National Engineers Week, and we did a National Trivia Day highlight. For engineering, worked with Sharon to get that up and going. And the school district, I produced a advertisement flyer that went out to all the school kids through the school's communication channels. And we had a comms person there every day during the week to take photos and videos of the event, and then did several recaps on our social media, but also worked with Stacy at the school district, and she got stuff out on her end highlighting that week in partnership with our engineers. And then I'll turn it over to Cameron really quick to talk about, we have our regular communications. We meet twice a week to talk about communication needs for the city. But we have also started having regular weekly library communications meetings with Suzanne to talk about what the library needs are weekly for communications. So turn it over to Cameron.
Yeah, so in terms of library comms, we did have sort of a sit down to kind of reassess what we wanted that to look like based on the updated library strategic plan and the goals outlined in that. And we, kind of identified certain features that we wanted to target and make sure people knew about. We also recognized that we wanted to get a little bit more kind of informational stuff out for folks who maybe don't have a library card yet and might be interested in getting a library card. So we kind of focused on some of those things, you know, balancing upcoming events with highlighting available services, and then just also having some kind of fun stuff in there every now and then. And we have been looking a little bit at some other libraries as sort of examples of some of that more fun content and stuff like that. Kind of I think the big highlight of sort of that came out in National Library Week. We did a week's worth of posting that was really meant to emphasize sort of the relationship between the library and the city, the relationship between the library and the community. And we did that, plenty of folks here, I think, helped with the what's in your bag post. We got photos of folks around the city, you know, with library books to kind of reinforce, you know, that relationship. And we talked about sort of what it looks like to work in the library and what the services offered to folks in the community and things like that. Yeah, that's, I think, what I have to say about the library stuff. I can talk about the other stuff too now, if you want. Yeah, okay. One thing I will say that I have a note about, as far as the weather stuff is, I can't remember exactly, but of like the top 5 or 10 posts, almost all of them were weather related, which to me just kind of emphasizes how important it is having that really good information and being able to put it out sort of as it's happening. I think people in the community really kind of appreciate and rely on that a bit just to know what's happening with, you know, plowing and gravel and stuff like that. And that's reflected in sort of the numbers for the city's page, I would say. A couple of other kind of specialty projects. We did talk about Engineering Week a little bit. I had a really good time going and taking photos and videos. It was a lot of fun. And we got some really good stuff. It was really nice to see sort of the work that you folks are doing, you know, in practice and like in the community and with young folks and stuff like that. And then I was going to talk about, we also did like a National Trivia Day, which we talked about. It was just sort of a one day kind of, we ended up posting, I think, like maybe 6 or 7 things on that day in the end. And we kind of used it as a great opportunity to drive engagement for the page. You know, we were able to just put out questions and solicit people to answer what they thought, you know, was correct. And we gave out some gift cards and things like that. And it was a really kind of a fun way to highlight city services that it's like maybe hard to work into a social media schedule normally. My kind of like silly example is we have the courthouse doc live feed camera on the website. You know, we got to like include a little thing about that. Like I wouldn't normally necessarily make time for that in just like a random post for a random day, but it was nice to have sort of a reason to reach for like the slightly more obscure things that people are not necessarily hearing about. Yeah, and I think those are kind of the bigger projects that I wanted to highlight. Yeah.
Say, Cameron, if you don't know, is mainly responsible for keeping the social media engine fed and run. They mostly take charge of doing all the posts and like creating a schedule for the week of what needs to go out and keeping track of all that. And they're in charge of gathering the content and producing it for our regular newsletter that comes out twice a month. I assist with a little bit of the like, I do all the editing and make sure everything looks good and we haven't missed anything, but they've taken on sort of those day-to-day tasks that are very repetitive, which has allowed me to have a lot more focus and ability to do the kind of things that wouldn't get done otherwise, particularly with waterfront redevelopment projects going on right now, like the business canvassing and having an own dedicated waterfront newsletter. It'd be difficult for one person to be able to do all that. So thank you to Cameron for all that they do.
I'm happy to do the repetitive stuff.
So Crystal, before you leave the project focus, we talk about what we are doing, but it's important that we're also communicating what we're not doing this year. As far as we're closing the park, we're moving, 13 nights to McCormick. We're not doing 4th of July fireworks. There's no fireworks this year. Getting that message out there because I remember back to 2013. It's the only other year I think that we've not done fireworks. There was a lot of disappointed people, but and that's before we had a communications department and really all the avenues we have to.
We've already had discussions about the timing of, talking about
We're gonna need like 12 posts before everybody acts.
Well, not only here, it's Woodland,
No, we will,
far away.
yeah, we will likely do paid advertising for that one. Facebook, as usual, is very odd and quirky in what you can and can't do with it, particularly in government, particularly with paid posts, because there's politics involved and they flag it, particularly with projects, infrastructure projects, they flag it as something related to housing and economy. So you have to go through this very advanced process to get verified through them, involving like linking things to your personal accounts, which I don't think is a good practice in government. So anyway, all that to say, fireworks are very easy to advertise because they have nothing to do with any kind of like human services thing. So we will likely be paying and targeting the paid advertising allows you to target specific geographies. So we will likely be targeting like within a 50-mile radius of here to let people know the fireworks are happening.
Please put in there why they're not happening. So I feel like there's a lot of speculation about why they're not happening. So it's supposed to be, yeah, good information, solid information.
Yes. So then just a few other of the, Kathy, sorry, back to the other slide. Just a couple other things I want to highlight on some of our focus areas over the last 6 months. We've been working with Sharon for about a year now on the TMDL project, and have been giving some that DEQ is requiring for some website stuff that has to get developed and brochures. So working with her on that. We've had several school field trips come through City Hall this last 6 months or so. So it's been fun. Lisa and I have coordinated together on taking them around. It's always great to have kids here to share, you know, what your local government does and be that positive influence and teach them, you know, the good side of government. And then if you weren't aware, HGTV had a feature on St. Helens as a small town city to go to because of the Twilight filming locations here. So we're to get some deliverables through Oregon Film Trail that help facilitate us being featured on HGTV. So what does that all mean for like what a day in the life of a comms person means here? So I sort of I took a day of my schedule, and I just want to say this is like really focused on communications. There's a lot of stuff that comes up throughout my day that might fall to the admin support side of things, between, you know, what Kathy and Lisa might do, or just random calls that come in and helping John do some stuff. But as far as like comms goes for a day, this is an example day from what I track of worked with Alex in engineering, that we created a customized streets and utilities and other projects map, because we have a lot of construction going on in a lot of different areas down here, and it's difficult for people when we're talking about one specific project and impact at a time to visualize what does that mean one at a time for like the overall impact to this area. So we've been working as we share stuff just to our social media page to create one map that consolidates all of the impacts on one visual map so people can see all the areas that are being impacted. So worked with that to create something so people could visualize that better. Then checked in with our public works director about some upcoming streets and utilities communication that had to go out in the near future. Then Shauna sent over a recreation summer camp guide that I helped them review a lot of their stuff before it goes out to the community to make sure no edits need made. So got that reviewed and sent it over to her. Then the mayor actually this week attended Lewis and Clark Elementary School with 3 first grade classes to talk about city government and what it's like being a mayor. So I was passed on from Lewis and Clark's request for him to come. That was passed into my lap to help facilitate that. So I worked with the teachers there that day to help coordinate a day that would work for the mayor and them so he could be there. Then I met with John because we had some requests come in from a council meeting that was held, I think, the day before. So we needed responses to both of the newspapers about questions that they had that had come up during the meeting. With Rachel leaving at that time, we had to re-sign some accounts that she is attached to at the city. So made sure that those were secured and passed on to new people taking over roles who could use those. Then we had a waterfront newsletter that needed to go out that day, so I worked on getting the content uploaded to our third-party site. It had to be reviewed by everybody and then had to send that out. Then Cameron was working on the regular city newsletter that day, so they sent over that for me to review. So I took time to review and edit that and sent that off to them so they could send it out. Then we had a request come in from Stacy at the school district to share the If I Were Mayor winners through their newsletter that they sent out. So Lisa was gone that day, so I had to coordinate with Kathy to get information for the homeschool private school students that won and participated in that project so that Stacy could have their info shared on her end. Then I did a write-up on Officer Howell, who recently was the recipient of an award from the school district recognizing his efforts as a school resource officer over the past decade or so. So the school district had reached out to us ahead of him getting that award for some additional information. So I did some write-up in coordination with Kathy and the police department and got that over to the school district so they would be ready for that award. Then we had planned to do some business canvassing because we had several construction sites that were going under construction upcoming. So we had planned for business canvassing. So after that got done, we had to compile all the traffic control maps into a cohesive grouping so that we could go around door to door in preparation to canvass. So we got all of those compiled and printed. So that was ready to go in preparation for the upcoming business canvassing. Reached out directly to some of the impacted businesses where stuff was happening right in front of their business to make sure that they knew as soon as possible before everybody else, like that they might see impacts so that they were the first to know and prepare for that. Coordinated, called to St. Helens Main Street to let them know what was going on and give them a briefing of what was going to be coming down the pipeline so that if they got questions on their end, they knew what was happening. I got forwarded a approved special use permit for the senior cruise, which is actually coming up very soon. And then reached out to the school district about that because their cruise might be in conflict with some of our construction happening down here. So I wanted to make sure that they were aware and touched base with us so that we could start that open communication channel and make sure that their event was successful because they normally pass through the downtown area. And then had to confirm some AP account coding so that bills could get paid. So that's what a day looks like in comms. And then you hope nothing else goes on fire in the meantime, so you can get all that done. And then what do we have coming up next? Lots of waterfront construction already. We've this week already for the River Rock project, I've worked to get some pre-construction photos of Columbia View Park. So we can have before and afters ready to go for that project and made signage that we posted at the entrances, each entrance to the park. So that's another way that people know like, hey, this closure is coming up next week so that people that are actually using the park have a physical way that they can get that information. Want to put a little plug in for Citizens Day planning. We still have, that's coming up. We have several outstanding things that need to get completed, tasks that need to get completed so that we can move on to some other things, which include advertising the event so that we can name the sponsors of the event and name the volunteers and thank them. And Rachel used to help facilitate our extreme weather event group for St. Helens and coordinate cooling center resources or at least bring the agencies to the table. With her not here anymore, she passed on her information to me. So I've reached out to that St. Helens group and coordinated our first meeting for 2024. So we will be meeting early in June to start discussing what resources are available where if we need to activate cooling centers for this year. There's been some staffing changeovers in some of the agencies that have assisted us in the past. So I want to ensure that we're all organized and on the same page of who will be doing what when that is needed. And then we will have summer reading program and recreation summer events starting up soon. So we're working on the back end to get ready to either start advertising that or be ready to help document and promote. That's all we have. Does anybody have any questions? I don't. It's never enough. It's never enough.
You always give us plenty of information and I feel like you guys have a lot on your plate, but you manage it really well. So thank you for your service to the city.
Very robust communications department. I think we are well above our weight compared to our cities.
Now we are going to move on to review proposed engineering fees with engineering manager Sharon coming up.
Hopefully it won't be too long. So. Next slide. So the reason why we're updating our fees now, the last time we updated it was 2022. And prior to the 2022, it wasn't updated since 1986. So you can see that gap. But the reason why we're doing it now is because we have the traffic calming, the speed humps policy, which is on the regular session agenda for the final reading. And so we need to have some fees in place for our department to manage that. In the meantime, I also looked at some of the general fees and updated those as well. Generally, we want to do them at least once a year. So it's just we just did every 2 years. So. Next slide. And I'm just gonna go through the ones that are actually changing. So the right-of-way permit fee, which is currently $100 per permit, we want to increase it to $150. Pretty small change, and keep the waiver, anything under $1,500, the fee is waived. The pavement cut fee, this one restructured a little bit, so the current fee, it was $100 also, to cut the pavement. What we're seeing is really high degradation of our pavement, and the $100 is just not, it doesn't do anything. So we propose doing a $7 per linear foot for the pavement cut, and $150 minimum on that end to remove the waiver from that. Specifically the waiver for a pavement cut, it really doesn't make any sense. Once the pavement is cut, it's damaged and it has to be fixed. So the plan review and the permit review, these are completely restructured, and we'll kind of go into a little bit of why. So currently, our plan review fee is 2% of the engineer's preliminary cost estimate. So the new structure is basically kind of staggering those costs based on the cost estimate project value. And if we go to the next slide, I'll show you why we're doing that. So what I've been seeing over the past couple of years is when we have projects that are, say, around $10,000 or $30,000, people are paying plan review fees of $200. Meanwhile, our staff is basically spending a considerable amount of time on it. And so we're spending probably, you would say, about maybe $1,200 to $1,500 on a plan review. We're charging $200. So the 2% works for projects that are generally in excess of about $500,000 or more. But for projects as they get less in cost, it doesn't pan out. And so a lot of cities are actually going to that more staggered prorating. So that's kind of the estimate there. So under the new fee, for instance, under this current fee, someone would just pay $200. Under the new fee, they would pay $1,200, which would cover the engineering fees for that plan review. And if we go to the next slide, similar cost structure change for the permits. Our current fee is 3% of the engineer's final cost estimate. You see how we prorated that. So it's still 3% for the projects that are over basically for $1 million. And then it goes a little bit higher, that percentage, the less the project costs. So engineering services for building permits kind of just changed up a little bit here and cleared up some of the language. It's still $320 that we charge for permit reviews for building permits. And I have a reduced fee on there now for $75 for permits that are just kind of more minor site reviews. So basically when we don't spend a considerable amount of time calculating their SDCs and everything, then it makes sense to just charge them a little bit less for that. So we'll have 2 fees right now, specifically for that. And the additional engineering inspections and reviews, this was just kind of slightly restructured. It used to just say additional inspections. So I added reviews to that as well. And then we increased the fee from $75 to $120 an hour. And so the new fee is for the speed hump request application fee. We're proposing $150 application fee when somebody turns in their application, and that's gonna cover the initial admin fees of reviewing it, making sure that the street meets the preliminary criteria, and basically covering all of those costs of routing it to the departments, sending it to the police, making sure that they're good with it before moving forward with that. And then the final fee on there would be the traffic study fee. So basically, if the street does meet all of the preliminary requirements, then we have to do a traffic study before we can even move forward with the speed hump. And that's probably the highest fee, typical range $2,500 to $5,000 to do a traffic study. So they would have to pay a $2,200 fee to do a traffic study on their street. Any question?
You got anything? I'm waiting for you.
You wanna hear from the cranky old contractor?
I'm sure you have some,
Yeah.
and so.
Well,
why I'm here.
You're the problem. Well, it's just, more inflation for building, and as a builder, it's hard to see these huge costs, for bringing a project about, and. If you've been through this and you see you have staff that, you've got to get reimbursed for that. One thing, the building department, engineering department, you get through fees, right? But a lot of your revenue.
Through the building?
Yeah.
So our revenue is the engineering fees. Yes, we do get some from that as well, yeah.
Anyway, it's just one of those ugly things that, I don't know, it's not fun.
Well, previously the fees were like not there. I know when Mohammed came out, it was kind of like, why are you guys doing this? I don't understand. Like every city is charging fees for these types of things. So I think it's just, we're finally catching up with the timing of things. Sounds like.
Got more staff and everything, and are you hiring a new engineer? Was that part of it?
We are gonna hire.
We got one position that was approved for engineering last budget cycle, so we're looking forward patiently to tackle that. It will be
You don't even have one on right now.
tremendous. You're welcome to apply. I'm just kidding.
Sharon.
We have help from Lower Columbia Engineering.
So how much of all your engineering that you go out is focused on all this infrastructure we're doing?
So I would say probably most of it. I mean, we pretty much manage all the public improvements for the city, as well as managing privately constructed public improvements as well. And then we also do the right-of-way permits, building permit reviews.
All these fees are applicable to the projects here.
Yes.
They get charged to their construction costs. Same thing you've got here.
Yeah, so the same thing you have here. So this would be applied to basically private development. Obviously, we wouldn't charge for public improvements, capital improvement projects would not fall under that.
Not much I can say. Don't like it.
Yeah, and then the fees cover, the fees are covering quite a bit. I mean, once it's paid, it's all inspections are covered, the bonding, the project management that we have to do. That's quite a bit. We have to monitor the project for 2 years for the warranty and then do the warranty inspections. So it's quite a bit involved in there.
I don't foresee a lot of speed bumps being added to the city, but it's good that you guys addressed something that we did not have a preparation for. So thank you.
On speed bumps, you said about $20,000 for a speed bump?
Yeah, it would be to construct.
And is that on top of your $2,200 traffic fee and $150?
Yeah, and that wouldn't be a fee, that would be something that the residents would either have to come up with. And we are certainly willing to look for funding also, and to help them with funding to do it as well, because sometimes there might be that as well. So we kind of have that a little bit more open. And it wouldn't be the same cost for each street, so we couldn't set a fee for it.
installed by you, not privately.
It would be installed by the city, by a contractor, basically.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be many speed bumps around that price.
I don't think so, yeah. Brandon, do you have anything or Mark?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have a utility bill leak adjustment request for 280 St. Helens Street. John, do you want to talk to us about that?
Sure. So I hope that we were clear of these freeze related leak adjustment requests, but this hopefully might be the last one. Pretty substantial leak at this address occurring over February, March. Typically it's over $1,000, so it comes to the council for consideration. The bill was like almost $4,500. Their average monthly bill is 140. So it's a significant leak that was repaired.
Repair now.
They are planning to replumb the building later this spring or summer. Requesting leak adjustment like that. Last probably four of that what we've done, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any questions about it. I mean, I looked through it and, you know, the applicant provided their, proof that they had it fixed and are just requesting it to be adjusted and yeah, I don't really have any other comment about it. Anyone else? All right, and that will be kicked up to tonight's agenda. So next on our list here is discussion regarding current agreement for events management. I was hoping that Rick would join us, but he's not here yet, so.
Actually, you're number 6 if you're going in order.
Not going to North.
Discussion regarding events in the downtown area, considering all the construction projects. I feel like they kind of, those two link together.
They do to some degree, but yeah, second. So I just went upstairs. He had checked into the contractor to see about, you know, what could happen or not conflict with the contractor's workflow and having some form of a space or area for the Halloween Town events. And it does appear that there's areas that they're certainly not going to use. They're not going to be using the plaza. They're not going to be using, you know, portions of First Street should all the way be pretty well buttoned up by then. And, you know, it does appear that we can make some form of Halloween happen. So.
You're saying you can't do 4th of July and you can't do 13 nights. What makes you think you can do Halloween Town?
Well, the 4th of July is mainly right here on the Veneer property or in the waterfront park. Right, because that's where people watch the fireworks from. So we can't utilize that space, but Halloween Town is more shifted up into this space, which could be utilized. If that's what we're talking about.
What kind of concession will the contractor make?
Regarding,
Well, change orders. I brought that up before.
they're saying that they don't think it will be an impact to them. Most of the work's on the weekends. They don't work on the weekends. Most of the visitors come on the weekends for the bigger crowds. Parking is going to be buses like it was last year. Even happens. So. Actually, we don't know how it's going to go because it's contracted.
Does anyone else have any thoughts about it?
I think it's possible to move, like we said, to move 13 nights and 4th of July activities and make it work. I don't think we can do the same thing with Halloween Town because people come to see the plaza. They don't come to see McCormick Park. So this is what they come for. My thoughts are, again, we should lean away from having some mass event down here. I think it would still be safe to decorate and set up the pumpkin out here because people are going to come regardless. They're not going to get the memo. So people are going to show up. It would be nice if there's something that they could walk around and see. But I don't feel it would be wise to have a large scale event down here. That's my opinion.
Yeah, during COVID, it was one of the first years we actually ticketed things and tried to limit it to 250 people. It worked pretty well. This really discouraged people to you don't have a ticket, please don't come, was kind of the message. Which kind of defies logic from a business perspective, but
The difference is too,
they're
that we,
gonna come, and they're gonna be maybe not have the best visitor experience, but it is gonna be an off year.
we didn't have the construction downtown during COVID either, though. Lack of parking, which is gonna be, I think, still gonna be an issue in the fall.
We did create a fenced off situation where we had gate monitors, limited people.
I don't know if making it a full ticketed event is the right answer, because I feel like that maybe looks like, well, you're just trying to figure out a way to still make money off of it, and that's not the purpose. At least that's not my intentions. My intentions are to continue to celebrate Halloween Town and try to, you know, allow the businesses down here to at least get a little bit of business during that time. So I don't know if I support the full ticketing, like we did during COVID. COVID was a different animal completely. But I think trying to do some of those, make those attractions like the Alien Museum and utilizing the store that we already have that's open, you know, things like that. I think trying to push a little bit of that onto those places over there that we have, and maybe doing some of the Halloween Town events and some of the local restaurants down here, you know, like Crooked Creek or something might be a good way to kind of push things a little bit up. Just some ideas, but I don't know if I support a full ticketed event. But I think that just gives the wrong look.
Yeah, my only reason for bringing that up was that we tried it to regulate crowds. It worked, and that managed to have smaller crowds and controlled crowds. I think it's kind of the secondary piece of it.
I think the only way that we can get it to work is if we ticket it.
I don't know about
I
that.
don't think,
You're gonna take, have them buy a ticket to see the pumpkin?
whatever else is going on. Just the pumpkin.
Some of the main attractions already have paid ticket, like. Some of them have, like the Alien. If you wanna go see the Alien exhibit, you have to buy a ticket to go in there. So there's already ticketed events, the haunted house, yeah, so. I don't know.
Are you anticipating, John, the same? Parking was a disaster last year. Is there plans in place to prevent that from happening again?
Well, our contractor had 7 school buses rented, running continuously to picking people up and bringing them back. And I don't know if I'd characterize it as a disaster, but it was inconvenient for sure.
Yeah, there was cars lined up from the rec center to the highway, and
Some of the night busier nights.
people that were trying to get into their cars for 3 hours and they were blocked in.
There was some parking mishaps where people blocked people in and created a big log jam in the parking lot up there. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was a disaster. That's maybe just me. But if that's gonna be the case this year, I'd like to know that that's not gonna happen again.
I'll bring up the ticketing.
Well, and my other thought too is, are we gonna do 2-month long thing? Because I don't know if that's appropriate this year. I think maybe just the month of October. I don't know if plans have already been made though. I also don't wanna disrupt things that have already been, paid for and reserved and stuff too. So I really don't know, but, I can imagine that is, you know, gonna be an issue too. 2-month long situation when we have adequate parking and, you know, all the other things, but I think 2 months of dealing with that. When there's no parking and construction and stuff, that sounds like it's gonna be hard.
Especially if we don't have a contractor, yes, board. Yeah. With the contract expiring June 30th, we're doing 4 13 nights. And then there's tentative plans, but there's not contract signed, because contractors shouldn't sign a contract if they can't perform the work, commit to the work. We're just stuck in this kind of limbo space of what's going to happen. If somebody new comes on board, what's their plan? How are they going to go about doing it? I don't have the answers.
So, I mean, the next thing on the agenda is discussion regarding current agreement for events management. So that kind of is looping into what you're saying right now. So do you have any updates on that?
It's not really updates, but just that same reiteration of what will be really easy is to consider, keep this RFP process on track. If you want to have more than 4 of the 13 nights, extend that with the contractor that has all these things tentatively set up, and then whether it's before Halloween or after Halloween, you can still hire the person, bring them in. Just think that makes a lot of sense to extend to the end of the year, or even at least to in between events.
I agree with John on that one. I just, don't see the point in trying to make everything, we've gotten the process started. Let's do our best to keep it rolling without it getting dropped. I've never seen how if we just, it took so long just to get the contract and the RFP stuff all lined up.
They
Why
were
are,
ready the first of the year. Okay.
well, that's
And
not
then
what
kicked
we're
us down the road for another 6 months, and here we are again.
Well, I'm just
We have a
saying,
contract and we have an RFP out. You're not gonna honor the RFP, I think we got some issues there.
I'm not saying we wouldn't honor the RFP. I'm just saying
Well,
that,
why don't we go through the process and then there we go.
well, if that's what the council feels. That's what the council feels. I just,
I mean, why even go through the process if you're not even going to?
because at the first of the year then, so this all goes through, the first of the year, we will have those people who have applied. How many have applied?
It closes next week, and I would expect there's 1 so far. And only 1 call. Same person.
I agree a little bit with Russ's sentiment here, which is I don't think that the answer is to continue to kick it down the road. I think it's causing a lot of relationship damage to lots of relationships, and it's beginning to look like we're trying to fire our tourism director, which is not the case at all. We are just trying to update things and make changes. And so I don't know why it's become like that. It's got so much bad publicity about it right now that it feels like we're doing something wrong when we're not. We're literally doing what our lawyers have advised us to do. And I think we need to do it. I think if there's gonna be any change, any shift, right now is the time to do it. Halloween Town's not gonna look like it looks this year anyways.
That I can agree with.
13 nights is
There's no
not
good
gonna
position on
look
this one.
there, yeah. So if we're gonna make any changes, if there's gonna be any shift, now is the time to do it. That's just my thought about it. I understand that we want this to, go into its next stage as gracefully as possible and as respectfully as possible, but I don't see that ever happening the way we want, that it should, because there's too much, emotions tied into it all. And I think sometimes you just gotta break it and move, and then, allow people a chance to process the changes and, adjust. That's just my thought about it.
The city attorney reviewed everything. Looked at quite a few times, came up with what he did, proposed it, we accepted it. And the attitude that we're trying to get rid of Tina is not it. It's like she is a free contractor to come and answer that, just like anybody else. This is what we're supposed to be doing every 3 years. So. Has never been done.
Have any comments, Brandon?
I agree with you. I think it's not an ideal time. It's not gonna be a seamless transition, but I think if there's a year to do it, I think this is it.
I mean, that I understand.
I don't like it. I don't feel good about it, but I don't know what else to do. I don't think it's right to keep extending this and extending this. I don't feel like that's the right process. I can see the reasoning behind it, but I don't feel like that's what's best.
All right, yeah.
John, you wanna go ahead and jump into your report?
Yeah, give me a minute to get on back in here.
Okay. I'm gonna be back to back today.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'll just, on that last topic there, it's really about just wanting the new person that if there's a new person to come in and just not be completely flat foot off guard and trying to make things happen. That's really all that's about, is continuity. And it's been really active downtown, not only with all the construction and the park being closed and directors making good progress. But we also have this filming crew in town working in the Endless Sound record shop over there. And fun to see the movie sets and the cameras, and it's not really the ideal time for them to be here, but so far there hasn't been any conflicts with the contractor, and it's there's not pounding and banging and
People sound really excited about it, actually.
people are excited about it, yeah. And it could have a residual effect on the city, much like Halloween and Twilight, things like that, where they come back for years to come. So we talked a couple weeks ago about this community project funding that Congresswoman Bonamici offered, put a call out for projects. It was like 48-hour turnaround. And Jenny, Dim Show, and myself worked when the announcement came out Thursday night. We got to work on Friday morning, put 2 applications in for the reservoir project. One was for 4 million, one was for 5 million. We most likely wouldn't get both of those, but would likely get one if the project even survives. And the Congresswoman made her list of the 15 projects she could champion to the legislature for her district, and we're on that list. So we potentially could get $4 to $5 million for the advancement of the reservoir project, and hopefully just get that repaired, and not only just get it repaired, but just get it done right and meet our long-term needs, because we really should be looking more than just a repair. So what's the long-term solution here? Our Perkins water master plan has reservoirs in it that meet the long-term need. Perhaps we look at that if this funding comes to avail. The Parks and Trails Commission worked on also on funding through the Oregon Community Foundation, a $2,500 grant for signs, which is great. It'll be signs for parks, signs for natural areas. That's great. And a special meeting with Project Arcadia, which is a group that's looking to take a portion of the mill site and bring jobs back to us and get the property back on the tax rolls and councils. I think everybody's really excited about that. The council entered into an agreement with them to do a diligence period. We're working with them. Land this plane here. Great for our community to get some local jobs back, well-paying jobs. Citizens Day the response has been frankly pretty overwhelming this year. We have over 100 vendors that have signed up to be a part of 101 or 102 vendors, which is a lot. Working with Peak Electric to get the electrical upgrade with a grant from the community. We'll be out doing that work next week, Wednesday, Thursday next week. That'll have some impact on the park restrooms that are next to it being closed potentially for all or part of the day. So we'll either direct people to different restrooms, or put up some porta potties so that the people using the park can have a place to go. So just a little bit more on McCormick Park. If we're doing 13 Nights has an exemption from the alcohol requirement in parks. Our park code prohibits the use of alcohol in city parks. Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm in.
Anyway, if we're gonna serve alcohol in McCormick, the council would need to take an action to do an exemption or code amendment. We'll come up with a document. Have a beer garden is the contractor's source of revenue, the major sources of revenue for 13 nights. So the RFP is next Wednesday, May 22nd. And for the tourism events, and the RFP lays out the process of an evaluation committee. Let's kind of look ahead to see who's going to be on this evaluation committee. And that's largely up to you or anybody you want to be on that committee. And so after we get any proposals in next Wednesday, if you know, we'll organize the election committee, evaluation committee. I would imagine it'd be at least all of the council if you want to invite others, so then. But you'll individually score them, review them, score them, and have a meeting, to talk about it.
Probably should be all the council.
I think it should be all the council too. And is there anybody else in the community that's a professional events person or somebody that you might rely on?
Business owners?
Could be whomever you like. So,
Both reporters.
both reporters.
Spotlight and the Chronicle.
As part of the evaluation. I don't know if they would take that, but
I think Crystal was involved in a lot of the social media parts of the events coordinating, so I think asking her to be a part of it would be helpful. Crystal?
Christina, she said she's done it before, so that she would be a good person to think about as well.
Community members like Judy Thompson, people like that that are heavily involved with our events and when we're in there.
Yeah.
And then the idea of business owners that are potentially affected.
John's just looking at how big this group is.
That's fine. I just want to know
Swing you have.
your expectations here. So
I think it is good that we invite the community to be as involved in it as possible, and if they don't show up, they don't show up, but at least we invited a few people that we felt like could contribute.
So the logistics are that they'll get each person on the evaluation committee will get a copy of the information, go through, score it.
Be part of that process.
Be part of that.
Actually, yeah.
You should have a number.
Of people,
A number.
part of us. John, Crystal.
Doesn't matter too much when you're on the point system. I mean, there's always a winner.
There's actually, the math is all figured out in there. It's an average of your scores, and scores get put together with the other scores. Pretty
But
detailed.
it's not like we have to have a non-number, is what I'm saying. No.
What if we shoot for like 15 people? Well, there's 5 of us, and then if you add city staff,
Each
And then-
invite somebody.
city members.
Be onto something there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Right, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good
So,
plan.
I don't mind that, I mean,
how many do we have? Sorry, I'm late. Was busy though. You're in your report. How many do we have for the RFP?
Next Wednesday, we have one submitted.
I like the idea of us inviting one person to join for that evaluation process.
Can you just let me know who that is?
Do we each bring one person with us?
I just identify who it is so I can get the packet. You're supposed to individually review them, so they'll get a packet. They review it. Scoring group.
And we'll just come together and
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be right this minute, but just let me know over the next week or so, or week probably.
Sounds good.
If we have time, I wouldn't mind both reporters for my one. Just because. I do understand the process and
and see how it is firsthand.
Ask.
Yeah.
You can ask. You can ask.
They live in the area, they're part of the community.
You can get one now, you gotta pick a paper.
Let's see which one will actually commit to doing that, too.
We're all gonna come in with 5 people we want. Be this huge committee.
Y'all gonna pick the same person.
It's Judy.
Okay, yeah, so you let me know on that, that'd be great. The next thing I want to talk about is now that the council's decided not to proceed with the police station construction at Castor Road. We're just, staff is looking for direction on what are we gonna do next. We got a team of architects and engineers and people on standby ready to work on a project. Just looking for council's direction on the site and or sites, could be more than one site. Forward with making it happen. So,
Well, I was under the impression that we were all kind of in agreement on that, the Holton district, right, that site.
Across from Aiden's.
Is that still the case?
Side.
I know that, but I mean,
Well, the planning commission was also more favorable, if I remember right?
for sure, you've had several meetings about it. If you want to direct staff to work on that site, we'll get to it, and I would.
You don't need any engineering or architecture yet on that, do we?
Well, there's some high level cost update. We can look at the cost implications of moving it. It might be actually par, it might be less because it's a little bit smaller site with less frontage improvements.
Just don't want to spend money for these architects to draw pictures and stuff like that, if that's not gonna be the site or. Let's not keep dreaming first, let's get down to the details, so we can afford the site, get, why you have to work with us. That's the first thing, when we hire these. professionals.
I'm sorry, it'd be nice to hear what you guys are saying.
Let's talk so quiet, he's not used to,
I'm sorry,
What site are you talking about?
I'm going deaf, Jim, an old contractor, you know.
Me too.
I know.
supposed to be great.
So, the question was, what about the new site for the lift station? And they're saying, don't hire engineer, they're standing by, the engineers and the architects, and, well, sure they are. But I wanna make sure we got an agreement on the land,
That
okay? And then it's gonna go ahead, and what kind of arrangement we can make with the landowner. And,
was my question. What site are we talking about?
it's the old PG site on
Okay.
Boulevard. Which can fit, they can cut down the existing plan and I don't know, I haven't even looked at
Sorry
it.
to interrupt. That was my question.
Okay, I'll try and speak up next time.
You need a little microphone just for Russ.
PUD, we have our own individual ones. You just gotta turn it on. It's green or red when it's on or off.
I don't think I need.
They don't hear me either.
That makes sense to me to see if it's even gonna work, if we can come to an arrangement.
And there's things like appraisal and if we can hold off on. Survey and the other kind of soft costs before you get into doing the engineering. I was talking like a engineering estimate level on relocating the sewer, so we know how much influences the cost.
We can charge us no fees, that'll be horrible.
Yeah, I think that
Yes, so work on that project.
All right.
That's our target. Okay, we
don't put the cart before the horse, okay?
are not doing.
That's what Russ means.
We try to move very stepwise. The budget is budget adoption is scheduled for June 5th, and that'll unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's not a big deal. The will require a supplemental budget for the capital outlay that we did for the purchase of the Union Building down on Castor Road there. And just because there was no money appropriated into that, the fund where that came from, that we did that, so we have to do a supplemental budget because it's over 10% of the fund. And then tomorrow night we'll have a urban renewal meeting, and I think that'll be with the budget committee here. And that should be fairly straightforward. Urban renewal is just at this point all about funding these improvements right here. And we're on track. We've got financial consultants and good understanding of where we're at. So that concludes my report.
That's 6 p.m. tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
All right, thank you, John. So we're gonna go ahead and adjourn this meeting. We do have executive session to follow. And in that, we're gonna be discussing real property transactions under ORS 192.6602E and consult with counsel, potential litigation under ORS 192.6602H.